Well, when it comes to analyzing this argument, everybody agrees with two. An omniscient, holy, good being would prevent the occurrence of any intense suffering it could, unless it could not do so without thereby preventing the occurrence of some greater good. Pretty much atheists and theists alike can get on board with the truth of premise 2. So premise 1 is where the action happens. Premise 1 says there exist unnecessary evils that an omnipotent and omniscient being could have prevented. So, premise 2 seems to be true. But are there instances of evil that don't serve a greater good? And William Rowe thinks that there are. Rowe tells a story about a fawn that is killed in a fire. Well, first he's injured in the fire. Rowe says, imagine lightning strikes a forest and causes a forest fire. Well, the tree falls and traps a fawn underneath it. The fawn suffers for days before it dies. The fawn is trapped under a tree, it's burned terribly, and it suffers for 3 days before it dies. So far as we can see, Rowe says, there is no greater good served by the suffering of this fawn. God knows about the suffering. God can stop the suffering. And there is no greater good served by the suffering. He says this is an example of an instance of unnecessary evil, an instance of suffering that an omnipotent, omniscient being could stop and would not interfere with a greater good by stopping it. Rowe doesn't have a problem with the death of the fawn. Rowe is not claiming that the death of the fawn is the evil. If the fawn's got to die, the fawn's got to die. But the fawn should not have to suffer before it dies. If the fawn has to die, kill it quick. It's just not any reason, he says, that we can see to make that fawn suffer for 3 days before it dies. So that's Rowe's reasoning for premise 1, that there are in fact instances of unnecessary evil. Is it successful? Well, it's not clear. The atheist response to Rowe is going to be that so far as we can see, there is no reason for his suffering. There's no greater good served by the fawn's suffering. But we don't see very far. God, on the other hand, sees really, really far. Okay? So the objection to Rowe is that God has a reason, we just can't see it. Okay? God has a reason, we just can't see it. Maybe there's a family of foxes that's going to be traveling through the forest, the burnt wreckage of the forest, in 3 days' time. And the forest, having burnt, there's no food for the foxes. Well, if the fawn dies right away, then it will be eaten by other scavengers. But if the fawn lives for 3 days, albeit suffering, then it will have died just in time for the foxes to find it and be able to eat themselves. And thus, the family of foxes will not starve to death, and they can continue their trek to where there's plentiful food. We can't see that far. God's vision is much further than ours is. We have limited vision. God knows all. So God knows every single little thing that comes from the fawn's suffering. And so there is a greater good. We're just not aware of it. Okay, the atheist response, however, is there's just so much evil. It just seems like there is far more evil than could possibly be necessary for any greater good. God can see more than we can. Okay, by all means, explain it to us. Give us some hint. There's just so much evil. What greater good could be served as a result? Does that make sense?